Hello folks, and welcome back to my channel, The Scottish Model Railway Guy. So today's either going to end really well or really badly. I guess we'll find out pretty soon. But what I've never done before is I have never properly attempted to weather this. Now I see some fantastic examples on YouTube, on Instagram, of double O gauge rails getting made to look, I don't know, dusty. Like it's a hard thing to explain, but I've never known how to do it. Now this is sort of a loading and unloading crane, so I'm looking to make it quite dirty for this one. But I do want to experiment to see, can I make these rails a little bit lighter, a little bit browner, so I'm going to give it a bash. So what I'm going to start with, I think, is a little bit of dry brushing, but before that I'm going to clean up the rails, and I'm going to jump straight to hyperlapse for that, because if I'm sitting here picking away at ballast on the rails, it's going to take forever. So yeah, hyperlapse is the next step, and then straight after that I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of dry brushing to try and bring a bit of character to all this, which I've never done before, and that's why I say it's either going to end really well or really badly. If it ends really badly, what do? We rip it up and do it again. So hopefully a video like this can show you how to avoid having to do that, but we shall see. So here we go. So that's the track cleaned up. The next phase is dry brushing. For anybody that's never done it, and I hadn't done it until recently, what does it involve? Well, it kind of involves mixing paints. So what I learned, oh by the way, these are little acrylic paints. How's it going to work out with acrylic? I guess we'll find out. But what I learned was, what you really want is plenty of white and a tiny little dab of black. So don't add them together. You want to just be dipping from the black and taking what you need to the side. So I need to get a wee brush wide enough for the tracks. I've got a selection of brushes here, so just going to take a bit up here and try it. I'm going to try and mix in the tiniest piece of black that I can and see how much that changes it. Now what I think I want is a light grey. I think I want to move this bush out of the way and find it a proper home at some point. But what I want is a wee light grey, so I need a bit more for that. Keep it going. Now if there's any comments on this, I'd love to hear them, because I have never done this, and if it turns out really badly, my fault, which is fine. I guess we're going to find out right now. I would say that's too light, but I'm going to do 2 or 3, because if it's too light I can always go a bit darker. Yeah, far too light I think, because you can't even see the sleepers. I'm going to add a bit more into that, mix it up and go for a slightly darker grey. Now, the secret is dry brushing. What is dry brushing? Get the brush as dry as you can, or as dry as you like is a better way to put it. And then add to it, but make it long strokes, so it's a little bit vague about what you've done. Now you can always clean these rails either with your finger or with a cloth, but do remember you need to make your electrical connection there. I think that's not looking right, so I'm going to go a lot darker now. I'm going to go into this main bit and see how that turns out. So I don't think that came out quite right, which is fine, and you can see this one's a lot darker. Now I'm going to dry brush it down, get as much off the brush as I can, and go for it again to see what that comes up like. What I'm looking for is sort of the effect of, in this zone, a lot of traffic, a lot of drippings, that sort of stuff, but I'm also looking to affect the ballast so that it's coming out as if the whole section's been badly weathered by the sheer volume of traffic going through it. Now, some of you total experts out there will be horrified at my handiwork, no doubt, and that's fine, because if I don't give it a go at some point, I'm never going to know how to do it. So you can potentially see that starting to fade out from the sort of newness of the double O gauge Hornby tracks and fade in. You can see I'm actually slapping it about there to get just a thin layer on my brush. You can see the Hornby tracks, the newness of it starting to come away, which is exactly what I'm looking for. And it all looks a bit faded now. Now, at some point shortly, I'm going to zoom into these tracks so you can begin to see the difference of it compared to one side by side. And then you can begin to understand why I'm wanting to do this, particularly in this zone. Now I'm going to add even more black and maybe just bring it all in. And I want to put a thin sort of layer of even darker right down the middle. And I'm wanting that to look as if it's been well oiled with pickups, drop-offs, locomotives coming through, stopping in this zone, which I guess is the objective, to simulate that, the sort of place where there's heavy traffic coming through it. So I think one of the best things for me to do just now would be to nip to hyperlapse, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin painting in between the tracks. And the ballast, I'm going to bring it to the top, a top-down view, so you can begin to see how that would feel and look. So hang on, and here we go to that. Now, I think what I'm beginning to see is a nice bit of weathering going on here. Now it depends whether you want to go for the oily look, the grimy look, or whether you want to go for the look that you see in maybe a lot of railways down south, which is fine. But in Scotland it's very wet, it's very green. And if I'm doing a Scottish railway, I have to try and stick with that theme. So I'm going to zoom right in, and you can begin to see, excuse that, the tracks are looking a little bit tired. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to pause for a second and then come back, which will take 2 seconds. It's amazing how my hand disappeared there. And then I'm coming back with this burnt sienna, or you can get acrylic paints that are rusty. I kind of used I think it was the sienna, to begin to age this. Now what am I going to do with this? I'm going to try and make the tracks look a little bit older. How do I do it? This is one of the ones I learned, which is the easiest way to do it, is to get a tiny bit on your tip and then go right along the side. Now what I might need to do is blend it afterwards, and go back over it with the blacks to try and get it so the rust isn't showing up on the sleepers. But you can see what I'm doing here. Now you might go, well, okay, great, but you're getting it all over the track. Are you going to get the electrical contact? This is where the alcohol wipe comes in. You get it into a nice wee corner, and then you give it a nice clean along the top, and that way you're taking it all back off. And cleaning, as we all know with model railways, is one of the nasty things that we need to do quite regularly. But I think even with that tiny little bit of paint, we're starting to get the effect. Now what I'm going to do, before we go any further, zoom back in, but I'm going to bring that into focus spin it round a bit, try and get that in focus, and you can see the effect beginning to happen. So I'm going to jump to hyperlapse again because it could take quite 10 minutes anyway to go through this. If you look at the bottom right hand side of the screen, just here, yes, you can see what I'm going for, and I think I'm not going to have to rip this section back up, which I'm quite pleased about, but we shall see. So yeah, here we go, hyperlapse. Now listen, you're well deep into this video, you must have been enjoying it, so if you've never subscribed, then please do, to all my subscribers. And there's over 1,000 now, which I'm chuffed to bits with. Thank you for coming back, thank you for your comments, your tips, your help, all appreciated. Keep it coming. So yeah, I'm going to crack on with a wee hyperlapse, get this section finished, and then we'll run a train over it to see how it goes. If it goes. But we shall see. Hang on, folks. So, how did that turn out? Well, like I said, I don't think I need to rip it up. Now, what you might have noticed me doing in the hyperlapse was I thought the orange was a bit too bright. So with the greys and blacks that I was using earlier, I went back over it very lightly. Now I'm going to try and zoom in gently so you can get the effect and see what that looks like. Excuse me if it gets a little bit shaky. And I'm going to lift it up to put it into the context of this wee guy standing here. Now, does it look decent? I think so. I'm never going to be one of those experts you see at model railway shows pulling everything off absolutely perfectly, but I'll certainly always try to do it as well as I can. You can see the top of the rails are nice and shiny. So it's all came in really quite nice. Now I'm going to bring a loco to approach it. See what it looks like with a loco running over it. Looks okay. Now reversing it back out at high speed. Bring it forward again a wee bit. Yeah. Now to me, that's a nice wee image, I think. Lift it up a wee bit. Yep. It's looking okay, it's looking fairly believable. Now to do it for a big layout, it's going to take a lot of time. I have no problems with that because, you know, that's what the hobby's all about, keeping going. So yeah, if you like this, which I do, then I'm glad you came this far. It's a fairly lengthy video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said earlier, if you've not subscribed yet, then please do. You'll see lots more explainers like this happening all the time, and the channel's growing and shifting along at a fair pace. Plenty to see, plenty to do. So thank you everybody for coming along. I appreciate it, and I'd love to hear your comments. See you again, folks. Thank you very much.